What up, YouTube? I'm back. So I didn't do a review for last week's episode of Tower of God, but it was pretty good. We learned a little bit more about Kun, so I really like that. And obviously, there was a new bonus test that we saw that the main characters are doing right now. It's basically King of the Court. We know a lot of variation of that game, especially in basketball, but I think it's a pretty cool game, and obviously it's a bonus game, so they don't have to participate. But this week's episode, I think, was even better. And obviously, at the end of last week's episode, Bam thought he saw Rachel, so that was pretty interesting, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit later in this week's review. But Kun was pretty smart, of not going to enter the King of the Court game right away, because we saw the lizard. I think her name is Anak. She's pretty strong, so they wouldn't have been able to dethrone her. So it was pretty smart of Kun to not enter the first round. The first round of King of the Court was pretty interesting because one of the first team to participate in that round was Team Anak, Hats, and Shibitsu. Obviously, we know how Anak is strong. She's really, really strong, and she has a special sword that we're going to talk about a little bit later in this review. And then there's Hats. He has two swords, and he's pretty strong himself. Obviously, Shibitsu is one of the weaker characters that we've been introduced to so far, but he held his own against other weaker characters, so that was pretty cool to see. Ever since the first or second episode of the series, I've really been interested in that guy right there. He's always sleeping, and we all know that in any anime or movies, the guy that is always sleeping is gonna be pretty powerful, and we saw a little bit of his power in this week's episode. He can actually use Shinsu, which is the energy source for the tower. We saw Lero Oro use it, I think, 2 episodes ago, so he's pretty strong. That's why he wanted to enter the game, even though Anak was there, is because he thought that he would be able to defeat Anak, but obviously that didn't happen. Anak was angry because he woke her up, so that was pretty funny. But there's also something pretty interesting that happened with Anak's sword. It seems like her sword has multiple forms, that can do multiple things. So that was pretty interesting, and it showed us how powerful she really is. So that was pretty cool to see. She was angry and she was destroying everything that she touched, so that was pretty interesting in my opinion. And while all of that was happening, for a reason, the Black March that Bam had was moving. It was kind of attracted to that other sword, so that was also pretty interesting. But we're gonna talk about that real soon. But yeah, man, that was a pretty cool scene of Anak, because she was woken up that she was angry like that. I've really took a like I really like her character. We've not learned a lot about her except in this week's episode, but the way that she talks, her personality, and everything like that, I've really liked her a lot. Now, there's a lot of things that we learned in this week's episode that I really like. The origin of the Black March and the origin of Anak's sword. It was pretty interesting. The Black March is one of the 13-month series forged by Master Craftsman Ashul Edwahu, so that was pretty interesting to hear, to learn, because it's one of 13 sword, and we've only seen 2 of those swords so far. We've also seen, obviously, Anak's sword is also one of the 13-month series forged by Ashul Edwaru, and her sword is called the Green April, or something like that, so obviously we've been wondering where the swords come from, because it had the same kind of logo on the sword than the Black Mars. So I was already pretty interested in that sword. And what Anak said is that only the Princess of Jahad can have those kind of sword, So that's how she revealed that she was one of the princess of Jahad. So that is pretty interesting that one of the princess of Jahad are trying to climb the tower, the Tower of God. So that was really, really interesting. There was a lot of information in that part of the episode that was pretty important, the swords, Anak, who she actually is, that was pretty interesting. So one of the things that I'm wondering is if these 13-month series sword are only to be held by a princess of Jahad, does that mean that there's 13 princesses of Jahad? That's pretty interesting to me. And one of the other things that happened in this week's episode is that Anak made a deal with Bam so that if he lost, this bonus test basically to her, she would be the one to take the Black March, because obviously she's a princess of Jahad, and seeing one of the 13th-month series sword, the Black March, in someone else's hand other than a princess of Jahad is not good for her, So she wants to take that sword back, and obviously Bam doesn't want to give it back because he made a promise to Yuri that he would give it back to her. So yeah, man, a lot of interesting things happened in this week's episode. Obviously, I think that Bam is gonna win this deal against Anak, but we'll see. So when Anak and her team was going back, to her quarters because she was disqualified in the first round by leaving, the throne and the crown, so they were disqualified for that. And while they were going back to their quarters, we saw that character right there that they've been showing us for the last, I think, 2 episodes for a reason. It seems like she's gonna be really, really important. But in the last 2 episodes, they've been showing us her face, so I'm wondering how strong she will be and how important she will be, in the story. But yeah, man, that was a pretty interesting part because it seems like she said something to Anak that pissed Anak off. She said, I think that Anak is an imposter, so that's pretty interesting. We'll see what all that means. I think soon, I'm guessing, So yeah, man, we'll see. Maybe in next week's episode we'll learn more about that character right there. But yeah, man, I can't wait. Anyway, because Anak and her team were disqualified, there was going to be a new king of the court in the next round. And because of that, Kun decided to enter, the next round with his team, which was pretty smart, of him, because he knew that he would have had a difficult time of getting the crown from Anak. But yeah, man, he's a pretty cocky guy, from what we've seen so far, especially in this week's episode. Just seeing him, take the crown like it was nothing from, these other guys that were also trying to get the crown. And something that I want to say is that at first, when this competition started, I thought it would be one team versus one team, but it's been uh, a free for all basically for every team. It's been like 3 or 4 teams at once, so I really didn't expect that. But yeah, like I said, Kun is pretty cocky. He was able to get the crown pretty easily, so I'm wondering how sure he really is. That's one of the things that I want to see. We saw Kun be able to do some things, in this week's episode. One of the things that he did was absorb a Shinsu attack with his suitcase, which, is something special. We don't know what his suitcase is. It seems like it's something special because he can do a lot of things with it. He was able to give a Gator like a lot of chocolate bars from his suitcase, so that's pretty interesting. And he was able to put a crown and get another crown from his suitcase. It's not like his suitcase is pretty big, so it seems like it has a special power, maybe It has a portal in it. I don't know, but it seems to be special, so that was really cool. I hope that we learn a little bit more about that specific suitcase. And he made fools of the other participant, in this round, because he put the crown in his suitcase, and then he threw another crown on the ground, and they thought that it was the real crown, but it wasn't, so he made them look like fools. But yeah, man, it was pretty interesting to see all of that happen. I really want to see what's gonna happen in next week's episode, and how Bam, Coon, and Gator are gonna win. Obviously, the elephant in the room is Rachel, because it looks like we saw her in this week's episode. It looks like her. I don't want to say it's her. Maybe it's a shapeshifter. I don't know the rules, every rules of this series, but it seems like it's Rachel, because she's hiding from Bam. At the end of the episode, one of her teammates said that if they could kill everyone, and Rachel said yes. So maybe it's not Rachel, maybe it's her. I think it's her, because she looks exactly like Rachel, but we'll see, man, because even Bam thought that he saw her, and after that he said it's not her. So I don't know, man. We'll see, probably in next week's episode. We also saw her team, in last week's episode. It seems like they killed every other participant in their test, so they're gonna be pretty strong. So I can't wait to see what's gonna happen in next week's episode. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode in the comments down below, and let me know what you think is gonna happen next. I do Tower of Gods reviews every Wednesday, so subscribe for that. But I also do other anime related things. I usually do reviews for Black Clover on Tuesdays, but I didn't do a review for the last two episodes, but I'm gonna be back next week. Now, it's gonna be hard to do reviews for other animes, because like every anime is getting postponed because of the virus, because you can't put the animators and the directors and everything like that in jeopardy of this virus, so they're postponing kind of every anime that I'm reviewing right now. They postponed One Piece, Boruto, uh obviously they postponed Sword Art Online till I think June or July. So there's a lot of animes that I'm reviewing usually on my channel that is being postponed. But we'll see what I'm gonna do. There's other things to talk about on my channel. I know that there's one last episode of Boruto that I'm going to review this Sunday, so stay tuned for that. But we'll see what I'm gonna do on my channel, man, for the next few months. But yeah, man, follow me at Anime Specialist on Twitter and Instagram, and like, comment, subscribe. It would help my channel a lot. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to see and watch next week's episode, because it's going to be really, really good. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Anime Specialist out. Peace.